All right, guys. So in math this week, we are going to continue with measurement conversions. I know that last week we spent a lot of time on customary conversions. The customary system is a system of measurement that's commonly used here in the United States. So these units of measurement were probably a little bit more familiar to us, right? For example, we know foot, inches, yards because we measure using a ruler, right? If we go to a football game, we know that the yards are indicated on the football field. We do like runner's club, and we usually measure the distance we run in miles or in feet, right? If we go to the grocery store, we're usually picking up a gallon of milk. So these are all measurements that we've heard of. We weigh ourselves in pounds, but there's also another measurement system called the metric system. So in fourth grade, we have to know both. And you can see that this section is much shorter, right? It looks almost like a little bit simpler to understand because all I see here are like ones and thousands. So as we get into this, this portion of the reference sheet right here is what we're going to focus on today. And we're going to take a look at metric conversions when we're measuring the distance or length. So we're going to be focused in on this section of the reference sheet. Again, it's in the folder if you need it, but join me on part 2. We're going to be working in your textbook today on pages 493 to 495. So go ahead if you don't have your book, pause this video now, and I will see you in part 2.
Okay, today we are working in topic 13 and we are focused on metric units of length. I know in the first part of this video, I kind of briefly discussed with you the difference between customary and metric. And so today we're going to focus on those units of length, again, using the metric system. So we're on page 493 in our math book. You need to make sure you have volume 2 open up to this page. As I'm going through this video and solving these problems, you are responsible for working right along with me, reading the problem to yourself as I read it out loud, showing your work in your math book, and solving with your teacher. So let's look at this first problem. I see a highlighter and a ruler, and right away I can see that we're measuring in centimeters. I see that indicated right down here at the bottom of the ruler. And if I look at the ruler, I would say that this highlighter or marker is about 12 centimeters in length. But let's read the question. Let's see what I need to do with this. Find the length of the marker shown in both centimeters and millimeters. Then describe the relationship between the two units. Okay, so if you go back to your reference sheet, hopefully you guys have that printed and available for you to look at as we are continuing with measurement. You will not see a conversion from centimeters to millimeters. However, we're going to turn this page, and hopefully after we go through this explanation, that will be one that you have memorized. So let's zoom in here. Now, I know this is a little blurry, but if we take a look, we can see that 1 centimeter is indicated right here by this line on our ruler. And if you were to count these little itty bitty little marks, these are your millimeters. In the video that you just watched, I believe they said that a millimeter was about the thickness of a dime. So let's count and see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. This longer line is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Now, if you can remember that a millimeter is about the thickness of a dime, how many dimes do you need to make one whole dollar? You need 10. So I tell students to relate the 10 millimeters to 10 dimes stacked up right here. That would be about the distance or the thickness of 1 centimeter. So again, the conversion that we need to have memorized in 4th grade, they're assuming that you just know this one from memory, is that 1 centimeter, and you can see it abbreviated cm, is equivalent to 10 millimeters. So again, this is the part that you kind of have to just know. Now we can solve this question. So I see that we have 12 centimeters indicated here on the ruler. So 12 centimeters is equivalent to how many millimeters? Because we have to tell them both. So we know the centimeters, but what are the millimeters? Well, it looks like for every centimeter, you have 10 millimeters. So you're going to multiply your number of centimeters by 10 to solve for your millimeters. So that's just 12 multiplied by 10. Well, I don't know that right off the top of my head, but I do know 12 times 1 is 12, and then just add on this 0 for a total length of 120 milliliters. Not milliliters, good grief, millimeters. But now the second part of this question wants us to describe the relationship between the two units. So again, we kind of wrote that up here, but to put this part into words, the length in millimeters is 10 times greater than the length measured in centimeters. Okay. Let's look at this problem right down here. So if you're in your book, you write down here at the bottom. The length of Toby's giant pencil is 25 centimeters. I guess that is pretty big. How could he find the length of his pencil in millimeters? Okay. So we have a pencil, right? And we're going to imagine that it is a distance or a length of 25 centimeters. But we have to convert that now to the length in millimeters. So 25 centimeters is equal or equivalent to how many millimeters? That's what we need to solve. Well, up here we said that it's really just multiplying by 10, right? Because we know that there are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So if we have 25 centimeters, 25 times 10 is equal to 25 multiplied by 1, but then add on your 0 for 250 millimeters. Moving right along, let's turn the page. And let's look at this problem right here on the top. Don't worry about this part. They're just walking through it and solving it for you, but we're going to do that part together right now. So just focus in up here. Something that they do provide in your book quite often is the reference sheet or the section of the reference sheet that you will need. So again, metric units of length, let's see what they're giving us. They did tell us here in the book that 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. They're also reminding us that in 1 meter, you have 100 centimeters. And then if you were to convert that to millimeters, that would be 1,000. And we know that because 100 times 10 is 1,000. Lastly, they're telling us that 1 kilometer, sometimes called a kilometer, is equal to 1,000 meters. So now let's take a look at this question. For the standing long jump, Corey jumped 2 meters, so that's Corey, and Gary jumped 175 centimeters. The question is, who jumped further? Well, what we need to do is change our 2 meters for Corey to centimeters so that we can compare. So 2 meters is equivalent to how many centimeters? Well, let's look at our reference sheet. They tell us that 1 meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters. So I guess what I need to do is multiply the number of meters by 100. 2 times 100, that's equal to 200 centimeters. So we've now converted Corey's distance to centimeters. And then we know that Gary jumped a total of 175 centimeters. Now we have 2 units of measurement using the same unit of measurement, centimeters. Now we can compare. 200 is greater than 175. Therefore, Corey jumped further. If we wanted to take it one step further, we could even say how much further Corey jumped, right? We could subtract 200 minus 175, And I can actually think of money when I do that, and I can do that in my head, and I know the difference is 25 centimeters. Now, the question didn't ask us to do that. We just like to challenge our brains sometimes and think beyond just this question. Let's look at right down here at the bottom of page 494. Sorry for the writing that's kind of coming through. Hopefully you can read this okay. Shayla says that 5 kilometers are equal to 500 meters. Do you agree? And explain. So they want to know, is 5 kilometers, sometimes called kilometers, both are correct, is equal to 500 meters. So is this conversion true? Yes or no? Well, let's look back up here, and if you have your reference sheet, then you're focused in on this area right here that tells us that in 1 kilometer, you have 1,000 meters. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Do you know that kilo actually means thousand? So look at that. There's your word meter, 1,000 meters. Now let's look down here. So 5 kilometers are equivalent or equal to 500 meters. Again, keeping in mind that kilo means thousand. That's what that prefix means. So wouldn't that be 5,000 meters, not 500? So Shayla is wrong. No. 5, and I'm going to abbreviate. Kilometers is equal to, and that number should be 5,000 meters. All right, let's turn the page. We have just a few more that we want to talk about. Let's go right down here to question number 1. So now this is referring more, boys and girls, to like the relative size of the units. So in those questions each day, at the top of your direction page, it refers to converting units of measurement, but also understanding and recognizing the difference between those units. So what metric unit would you use to measure the length of a field? Well, we know that, right, your millimeter is kind of like the thickness of a dime. Would it make sense to measure the length of a football field using a millimeter? No. And then a centimeter is about 10 of those. Would it make sense to measure a football field using centimeters? Absolutely not. You would be there all day. Now, the next unit of measurement that we have is a meter. Now, I know in the video they gave you that comparison with the door, right, and a door handle, and they said that it's about the length from the floor to the handle, and that's 1 meter. You can also think of it as the width of a doorway. So in a standard doorway, the width right across here is also about 1 meter. The next unit of measurement that you have is a kilometer, which is 1,000 of these. So imagine 1,000 doors lined up. Now the question is, which unit of measurement would you use? So I think we've narrowed it down. We've gotten rid of these two. So it's between a meter and 1 kilometer. Well, 1,000 doors lined up is going to be much longer than a football field. So I would go with meter. You're going to use meters to measure that distance. Let's look at questions 2 and 3, the last two, and then you're going to try some on your own. We have to convert each unit. The first one is asking 5 kilometers is equal to how many meters? Well, hey, we did that one previously, so we already know the answer. So let's change this. What about 8 kilometers? Well, again, I know that kilo means 1,000, so it's almost like I'm reading the problem. 8,000 meters, right? Well, look at that. Changing it to meters, it would be 8,000. Let's look at question number 3. Centimeters to meters. So right away, before I even look at that number, I don't even want to pay attention to that number. I want to know, what do I know about the relationship between centimeters and millimeters? Which one's bigger? Which one's smaller? This one is smaller. So I know that in 1 centimeter, you have 10 millimeters, right? Thinking back to that thickness of the dime and how there's 10 of those little teeny tiny marks on the ruler that are equivalent to 1 centimeter. So now let's think, how could you find 75 centimeters? How many millimeters are in 75 centimeters? Right, you're going to multiply by 10. So 75 times 10 would be the same as 75 and adding on the 0 for a total of 750 millimeters. Today you guys have some practice problems. You are going to do problems 4 through 8 on this page. Right here you're just finishing this table to convert meters to millimeters. Then right here you're converting centimeters to millimeters. This one's a little bit trickier. You've got to do like 2 steps, right? Pay close attention to your reference sheet. Then on the back, you're going to do problems 9 through 14. You do have an exit ticket. We'll meet at 2 o'clock to review these problems.